Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Jungle Gyms podcast. It is Tuesday, so we are back to the Tuesday Tic Talks. I'm your host for tonight, Anthony, and I'm happy to be hosting tonight because we actually have positivity, especially around performances and results and potential new incomings this week. Surely to God. With me tonight, I've got Gavin, I've got Stevie. Gavin, how you doing, pal?
Yeah, I'm really good, really good. It was a good weekend of football, especially the Sunday with Celtic winning and Rangers losing. And I'm going to say it, the terrible injury to Chermiti as well. So yeah, things are looking rosy in the garden for Celtic at this moment in time. It's kind of pleasing to see that we've kind of kicked on from where we've left off, from the end of last season. So long may that continue. And again, hopefully Martin O'Neill is getting better and he'll be able to join us in the dugout for this weekend's game.
I was gonna make a quick injection there of just kicking off from where we left off like 2 years ago, because last year just seemed like such a downer. But you do have to give Martin consistent credit for and Maloney and Fozzie for the work that they done last season, especially in that run in that kind of last 8 games when Maeda came to life as well. We really did start to play some positive, a wee bit more aggressive football. You felt a wee bit more confident as the games were getting ticked off that things were going the right way for us. So yeah, we have continued this season in that same regards. And I think after Sunday there, maybe we had a little bit more positivity. That 5-1 result was something that I felt never came last season at any point. That performance,
Yeah.
maybe not blown away performance. I'm not going to pretend that that was like, well beating wow and like edge of your seat stuff performance on Sunday there, but the manner and how we did it, the goals that kept coming all game, it wasn't a 45-minute performance, it was 90 minutes and it was consistent. It could have been more. I think that's a performance and a result we never got last season. And I'm just hopeful it's a kick on from now.
It's a really good point. I don't want to take up too much time before you
No.
go, Stephen, but I think practically every game last season had jeopardy in it.
Yeah.
That game at the weekend was just really, really enjoyable to watch as a fan.
What was really enjoyable, Stevie, was actually, I assume we were the first team to play on the new pitch at Killie. So it was really enjoyable to get some good football and get a 5-1 thumping on Killie on the nice new grass that they've just laid. They'll be really happy about that, I'm sure. Stevie, welcome back to the podcast. You were with us last week, used to, and other James. So thank you guys last week for hosting and taking that on. Stevie, how you been this week?
I'm excellent, mate. The Sean Maloney era is here, and I am very much all for it. It's like you all said. I mean, going into that game, I expected a win, but not one that was going to be pretty or emphatic. So yeah, I mean, like you say, brilliant win. Played some great football, and it was relentless. I think more than anything, what I just love seeing is just the relentless pressing of the attack. And even when it was at 3 and 4 and whatnot, they were still hungry to get more. They showed a desire to get more. It was, dare I say, Ange-esque.
There was elements of it, especially seeing Duran and obviously Casper leading that line. There was elements of, you could see that attack and play, that press, that going forward with a bit of purpose, that was there.
It was like you say, like never got that any time last season. It was always, particularly when it was still Brendan, it was always that horseshoe of doom, or it was always, it was always chasing the game or whatnot. Throwing 30-yard balls into the box, hoping that it lands on the head of Maeda or whoever. So it feels like we've got not only a swagger back, but a character back as well. This is the Celtic we all know and love. I don't expect it every game to be like that, of the season to be like that, because for a start, there are better teams in this league than Kilmarnock. There will be teams who will know how to defend better than that against us. That's just modern football now. everything gets analysed to the nth degree, and you figure out ways to stop your opponent by identifying both weaknesses and keeping them keeping the strengths to a minimum. But a great game, a great result, and of course we've got a new king in Casper. Or Doctor Who, as I like to call him.
It is. I'll get my little negative about this game out the way, right? And it's tying on to what Stevie was saying there. I think that was a good game. I think it was a good performance against the opposition that we were up against. But my consensus has always been and always will be until we bring in new players and or stop playing Cal Mack and the defensive mindset that he's in, is that midfield will get overrun by a better team. We will not see 5-1 victories against the likes of Hibs, Hearts, or Rangers if we're going to play with midfields like that. It got to the point in the Killie game where I think both teams basically just gave up trying to play in the middle of the park at times, and a lot of balls were going out wide before coming into the middle in the final third and just bypassing the whole of the midfield at times. It's work that needs to be done. However, let's not dwell on that too much tonight, because stats-wise, performance-wise, goals-wise, that was one of the better performances we've seen in a long, long time. And as I said at the start, let's hope it's something that does kick us on, especially with new signings potentially coming in, to get back to positive winning performances and getting some good goals on the board. Talking of stats, something that young James loves on this show is us talking about XG at times. And I'm going to bring it up just because it actually does suit my point quite well. I can always manage to melt this into some sort of point that I want to make, but this one actually does fit. So Kilmarnock's expected goals was 0.99, so 1. They scored 1. Our expected goals was 5.44, so 5. We scored 5. It fucking fit. However, I think all of us could probably sit here and say Casper Ho could have got another 2 goals. Nygren could have got another goal. Hits the bar. Casper Ho has a couple of shots saved. Even Yang goes for that outrageous overhead kick and stuff like that. So there is a couple of opportunities we could have got a couple more goals, but for me, I think that stat is kind of telling the tale of the game there. Other stats just run through very quickly. Ball possession only 64%, which is probably quite low by Celtic standards, but again shows you that the midfield battle, we weren't dominating the game there, but we were keeping enough possession and attacking with the ball when we got the Ned bit of the podcast. I'll get over that. It'll be done quickly. But it just shows you don't need, as we go back to the horseshoe of death with Brendan Rodgers, you don't need 80+% of possession doing nothing with the ball. I'd rather have less possession and make it more meaningful and impactful. Total shots, 33 for Celtic. Absolutely insane. 16 on target. Big chances, 10. Corner kick, 7. Again, passes completed a solid 91% with over 600 passes. So that's the boring, nerdy part of it out of the way. Overall, Gavin, on the game itself, do you think stats, performance, do you think we deserve that 5-1 victory as the eye test would give you?
Yeah, well, the eye test was like overwhelming. Aesthetically, we looked really, really good. However, one of the comments that Kilmarnock were very, very open. I have to agree with that. So, although I really, really enjoyed the game, I'm not going to get carried away with it. One thing that was really, really pleasing was, well, you've mentioned it already, the pitch. The pitch played a massive, massive factor in the way that we could play, that we could pass the ball around. I think you could see even before the opening goal was what, in the second minute, but even before then, just whenever we got the ball down and we started passing it in the opening minute, it just looked as if this could be an interesting game. The passing looked fluid. We had runners from midfield. One really, really pleasing aspect for me, apart from the pitch itself, which was really conducive to that style of football, was, you remember last weekend playing at Parkhead against Dundee, and the passing that Sinisalo had to Who, and it wasn't really working. A lot of it was lofted balls. Who was really pressed quite aggressively by the centre-back who was trying to marshal him, and he did quite well against Who, and Who was struggling at times to bring in other people into play. This time around, cause of the park, because of the wet surface, Sinisalo was able to send up balls to him across the surface. And who was anticipating it much better? They must have practiced this at Lennoxtown. But who was running towards the pitch, running towards the ball, kind of in their half, centre circle, whatever, and he's been able to collect the ball. And the press from the defenders wasn't as aggressive as what it was last weekend. So that was a really key element of us being able to get the ball and bring others into play, which we struggled with last weekend. Really, really pleased with that. Another thing about the game I'm sure we'll get into is Engels. Now, I've been a critic of Engels, and I have been guilty of saying I just don't know exactly what he does about quality on the ball and stuff like that. But Engels looked like a player. You ever see that whenever a player is playing with so much confidence, he just looks like he's better than everybody else in the park. Now, don't get me wrong, there were times where he might have a loose pass, might give away possession, maybe he was trying to overplay. But Engels looked with the ability that he had and just the athleticism of getting up and down the pitch. He just looked a cut above. I don't know if it was almost the red boots as well that just made him stand out. But Engels looked as if he knew that he was a player in demand and he was comfortable with it.
Can I just come in there, Gavin? And on top of that, I think it was finally Engels looking like the Mattarelli replacement that we thought he was going to be when he first signed for us. It was getting in those wee shoulder areas and putting in great wee pinging balls that defenders hate defending against.
I've always said that the midfield is so imbalanced that nobody looks good in it. And I wonder, go back to what I said earlier about the fact that neither two teams seem to want to play in the midfield, because I don't think anybody could dominate it if they wanted to. Does Engels look better because there's no Killie midfield dominator that he's allowed to go further forward and play that kind of more advanced Matt O'Reilly position and do what he's probably best at, rather than when we're a bit too structured because the other team are pressing us a bit too much. The positions look a wee bit off with him and Kalmak, maybe.
I think he benefits more from giving a wee bit of a free role when when the manager's willing to say to him, you know what, get that extra 10, 20 yards a dimension and see what you can do. I think under Rodgers, he was told, no, stay in the centre as much as you can and just pass it sideways or pass it back if needed to. I think maybe Maloney's identified something and said, no, I'm going to let you do the number 10 role and go out to the channels, go out to the wing and put in balls and see what happens from him. I'm not too surprised this happened, because would I not be correct in saying that maybe Maloney knew about Engels from Maloney's time in the coaching staff at Belgium? Or I may
possibly. I mean, I wouldn't imagine that he was there at the time that he would be able to have had him in the top team, but he certainly would have seen him in around maybe the under 17s, under 19s.
Well, I'm thinking maybe because Maloney, I think, had a role in the under 21 developments at that time as well.
Right.
So I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too much into things, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a connection there.
Possible. It's something we could always look into. Totally hijacked Gavin's point there, so we do apologise.
Sorry.
No, not at all. But to kind of qualify my comments about me not being able to kind of appreciate Engels, I do stand by that we wouldn't have won the league if Engels and AJ never came back at our moment of need. They never came back, then the midfield, certainly for Engels, the midfield balance would have been all wrong. I guess my kind of criticism is whenever he does get the ball, sometimes you're looking for him to do something to create. And I think at times he's a wee bit inconsistent. But then, of course, let's recognise his age. But I think he's still got a lot to do in terms of consistency. And he's obviously got a goal of getting back into the Belgian team, which is a really good goal to aspire to. He got caps for them at Celtic. There's no reason to say that he can't get back into the team at Celtic. But Engels looks like he might want to leave. And if he does want to go, then fair enough. But the timing is crucial and the price tag is crucial as well. But that game on Sunday, he was excellent. So I would like to see more of that, and I'll continue to sing his praises if he does so.
I think I get the feeling, I think a lot of people have said this, that when it comes to AJ and Engels both specifically, we look like we're maybe trying to hold on to them until after the Champions League qualifiers, which is definitely a very smart move when those two are concerned. What would be more smarter is Celtic being a bit more proactive in the market before now to get their replacements in already before you do sell them. But I get when it's money men that's running your club and everything's about the transfer value, the transfer price, telling people that you've got the replacement already in and thus you kind of desperately need to shift them on probably isn't going to allow people to ask for that extra couple of million or that extra selling percent when it comes to selling Engels and or AJ. So as far as fans are concerned, we probably want to look at it as get the players in and sod it for however much money the rest of them come in for, because we've got plenty in the bank in our eyes. But the guys upstairs are probably looking at it a wee bit more tight-fisted than we are, as they have done previously. But as long as Engels and AJ and that as well, as long as they get us through to the Champions League, after that, let's see where we land. You might be able to convince Engels at that point to even do a wee 1 year extension on his deal because he's only got 2 years. And maybe you do the whole gentleman's agreement. You can go for 25 next year with that extra year and a chance to play in the Champions League, because he's not going to get that clearly at West Ham. But he could still get West Ham and Nottingham Forest next year or somebody better at a better value and have some Champions League experience. So there's ways of trying to paint it to him, depending on how you want to do it. But he doesn't look like, to me anyway, he doesn't look like a guy who's down in tools. He doesn't look like he's a guy who's thrown the toys at the pram or anything like that. So as long as he's still performing and getting in these kind of stats and numbers, well, stats and numbers for his stats, but obviously not numbers and goals, but as long as he's still doing the job on the pitch for Celtic, that's what it is at the end of the day. As long as he's not an empty jersey, which he isn't just now and wasn't in the running. Stevie, I'm going to bring you in first when we start talking about the goals, and there was 5 of them. There's quite a lot to go through. So I'm going to lump all of Casper Rowe's goals into one goal, because it was a first half hat-trick for the man. His first goal for Celtic and his first hat-trick as well. So the first goal is Engels coming down the left. He crosses it in, and you've got Casper Rowe at the back post, kind of just waiting for the ball to come in, nods it in at the back post. He almost goes through the back post at the same time himself. Goal number 2 is Duran on the right, I think it is this time, and he passes it in towards Nygren. Yang almost has a fluff at the shot, and Casper Rowe does what I would consider a good thing from a penalty box striker who reads the game well. He's ready just to shift his balance a little bit to get the ball that trickles on through to him, and he just slots it in. And his third goal, another header from the back post, this time from the right side coming into the left. Again, I believe it's from Duran, who's crosses in, and Casper Rowe's kind of peeling away from the defender at the back post, again to head it into the back of the net. 3 goals from the big man. Praise be to God. How do you see it kicking on from here for the big man? How do you see his 3 goals?
It's just I was going to say dream debut. It's not. It's a dream second game. But what I just love about him is he knows how to be there, right place, right time, and he doesn't muck about with his finishing. As soon as the ball comes to him, he seems to just know, right, I already know exactly what I need to do here. And Kill go aside, we've had very, very few strikers like that at Celtic in recent years. So it's just great to see. Going away from the goals, what's got me so excited about him isn't just the goals; it's his other parts of play as well. He knows as well how to keep the ball at his feet, and allow time for his teammates to run up as well in attack, and do that great hold up play as well, and that's going to be crucial in Europe as well. So that's got me really excited. But my favourite one is definitely the second one, because it's just straight kick, no nonsense, in the net. no, and you see it's everywhere now with footballers and forwards at every level. No, first touch, then hold it up, and then wait to see what the defender in front of you is going to do, and then try and pick your spot, and then you duff it, and then it goes nowhere. No, straight first touch goal. Just great to see. There's, it's actually so rare now. It's basically Erling Haaland is the only one you see do it now at the top level. I'd imagine maybe he bases a lot of his game on Erling Haaland, the Scandinavian connection and all that. So that's great to see, and two good headers as well. Two very different headers. One's a towering kind of header, a dip down cross, and then he gets the top of his head on it, and then the other one's a diving header. It just seems to be right place, right time type of striker, and that's exactly what you want in a number 9.
I find him, as both of you have said and alluded to, I find he reads the game really well. He doesn't look like he'd be a fast player, but he actually has got a little bit of pace to him. Maybe not blistering, of course not, but he's, as you said earlier as well, Gavin, he's able to come deep into the centre circle if he has to be an extra body there to show for the ball, to then pass it out to the wide. And then he's instinctively just knows to get forward. He knows where he needs to be in that penalty box. He knows where he needs to start peeling away from the players, a la his third goal. He knows when to anticipate a potential fluff. Where's the ball going to go? If Yang doesn't catch that ball, where's it going to go? He's not an idiot. He seems to know how the game actually plays, which sounds really daft because you just signed an £11 million player and paying him probably about 35-40 grand a week. You expect him to know how to play the game, but we also sign guys like Balikwisha who don't know how to play the game of football. So it's really quite refreshing to see, especially strikers. As you said, the last time you saw somebody like this probably would be closer to Kyogo, who can read a game well, can play off the shoulder a little bit, can get himself into good positions. I think Casper's going to be great at that. This is only game 2. Obviously, in game 1, he doesn't get his goal. He's maybe not quite got his shooting boots on. There's some silly comments, amongst fans about, can he play on grass as opposed to AstroTurf? Almost like it's an absolute fucking travesty that he has to play on grass. Keep in mind, this boy's only actually played on AstroTurf at Boulder Glint. He's played at other clubs before then on grass. It's no hardship on him. But it looks like, especially when you take Duran, even Engels on Sunday and Nigren, they seem to now, that's a week and a half with them in training, they seem to now be able to understand each other a wee bit better. Duran's making those runs down the right-hand side. He's anticipating where the striker's going to be. And this is surely only going to get better the more they do this, because once they start really knowing that Casper Hole's going to be in those positions, they can just instinctively go through the routine time and time again, get these crosses into him, get the balls into him. Things will just start to happen more and more. Gavin, on those 3 goals, what one was your best then? How did you see them?
Just the movement for Hugh. He just looks as if he knows what he's doing, which is great to see. I think that we need more characters and players who play with authority in the team. That certainly brings out the best in everyone, and who looks to be like that. I think we kind of knew what type of player we were getting. And it's great that Sunday's performance kind of dispelled any doubts at all. Not really so much from the Celtic fans, but the media. You know what the media are like. They like to have a story, and Sunday really killed any hopes of that story developing. So the guy banged in a hat-trick, and for an 11 million striker, he will love that, and his teammates will love it, and the coaching staff as well. Kind of, restoring the faith that they put in the guy for that big outlay, and it looks like he's going to be a fan favourite as well. So brilliant performance for who. And apart from that, I was just kind of glad that there was further goals in the second half. I was watching it with who was I watching it with? I can't even mind who I was watching the game with, but I was saying I wouldn't be surprised if there's no more goals in the second half. Fortunately, we won the second half as well. But yeah, who really good to go off the mark in that fashion. Really pleasing.
Now, that's something that I was kind of meaning earlier when I said it was a performance that was like the full 90 minutes, because often you get that when you go 3 or 4 goals up in the first half. The second half is usually dog shit. You're just kind of going through the motions, but we seem to still want to keep going. Casper could have had 5 on Sunday easily if you wanted to have them, but we still kept going, and that was really good to see from the whole team, not just from Casper. So that was really good. The goals themselves, just reading what P. McLaughlin's saying there as well, and what you guys alluded to. I mean, this guy could go at this point now because he scored that hat trick. He could go the next 4 games and not score a single goal, bang one in on game number 5, and he'll still be on track for 20-25 goals in the season, which you can't really argue about for the league campaign. So long as he's going to keep banging them in, winning those games, then again, that's all you can ask for. If everybody works well together. Back to the goals then. Yeah, Steve, on you go.
Sorry, I was going to say what I really like about him most is he just seems to just love what he does. He's one of those footballers that takes what he does seriously, but doesn't take himself seriously. And I think we love that at Celtic. That's the kind of players we love. Jota, I think that's why we fell in love with him so much. It's not just because he's a great footballer; he's a character, and and I think Ho seems to fit that mould as well. He's a guy that seems to know he's got the best job in the world, playing football and getting a shit ton of money paid to you every week for doing it.
You know what I want to know in relation to his character? See this whole praise be to God thing or whatever he's saying at the start of interviews. Is this a piss take joke thing that he's doing just because he's here new and he just wants to have a wee jolly? Or is this something that is actually part of his character? Is he really quite that energetic and that passionate, religious and all the rest of it that he's got to keep going with? Because if this is part of his character and part of his charisma, personality, then I'm going to love it because he just seems like such a happy character, a happy lad. Even when he didn't get his goal in his first game, he was so positive about everything. And yeah, it's going to be brilliant. There was something just before we move away from it again, actually, I just remember I was going to bring up. There's a point in the first half, Engels, I think he took a weak shot or something when Casper Ho was like waiting for the pass. He was there to receive the pass and in a better position to take a shot on for the goal. And at half time, as the players were coming off, there was a moment where Casper's talking to Engels. And it's not aggressive, there's not anger or anything, but you just kind of wonder, is there a moment there that Casper's maybe saying to Engels, look, you need to pass that to me. Is he taking a wee bit of leadership there to try and get people to focus on him, or is he taking just leadership overall? It made me wonder, and I know many people don't like it, but it made me wonder, is there character in there and a leadership quality in there that he could be captain material? Although many people don't like it from a striker because you're too far up the pitch that you can't control the game in midfield. But he does come across as somebody who could be a bit of a leader.
I'll agree with that. Too early to say if he can be captain material, but it also raises a point that I've just thought of whenever you've said that. See, can you divide Celtic players into 2 categories? Well, maybe 3 categories. The 2 better categories is the people who stay for the long term. Normally they're Scottish or British, who get what it is to play for the club and who are there for the long term and they develop a great bond with the fans. So that's one category. The other category, which might be relevant, is the really talented players who are brought in, they stay for 2-3 seasons and then they get flipped for a profit. Do you think that those types of players, the latter category that I've just described, do you think that they can be captain material if they see Celtic as a stepping stone? Or is there anything wrong with that?
I think it's very dependent on how they take to Celtic. And Celtic, as cliche as it is for a lot of people, Celtic is a very special club. You see how even Dyson took to the club, but especially guys like Jota, how he took to the club and go as far back as Larson for another kind of Scandinavian striker who took to the club and did stay here for a few years longer than we expected. It can happen. Do you make somebody, though, I guess is the better question, do you make somebody who you know is going to be flipped, which I would say is in Engels? I don't imagine Engels is going to stay long term, 2-3 years. I wouldn't make him a captain. The idea might be that Casper's going to get flipped in 2 years' time anyway, So you probably don't make him the captain, but there's nothing to say that he doesn't absolutely fall in love with the club. And he decides, look, I don't want to go anywhere else. I'm happy here. And he signs a new deal and a new contract, and you could start looking at him as captain. Just as you say that as well, my thinking now goes to even Knutson, the manager. He could have moved so many times, and I know there's the rumour of the clause in his contract that he gets whatever percentage of transfer fees. So we've probably just made him an additional millionaire in that deal. But he could have moved on many times, but he's been happy to stay at what would be perceived as a smaller club, a lesser club in the European market. What's to say a player doesn't do the same thing in Casper Ho? Maybe he just does fall in love with the club. Many players have. That said, a few players have hated the club, left the club and badmouthed us. So you don't know at the end of the day. But if he was to, I wouldn't be against making him the captain because the character that he seems to have is fantastic. But I'm aware that a lot of fans, a lot of football people generally don't like the captain being a striker because he's too far away from the engine room of the team to be able to communicate with everybody appropriately, which is a fair point, I reckon. Back to the goals, guys. Goal number 4 was from Nygren. It's a very easy one to explain. Kilmarnock thought they could pass the ball out from the back, and Nygren does what Nygren does, and that is just capitalise on moments and score goals. Not to say he didn't have a good game, because he actually did have a good game, but he was in the right place at the right time. Specifically, though, pushed quite high, even while Casper Ho was, and I think he was still in front of him on the pitch anyway. So there was 2 of them in the box, in the position to press if they had to press, and the mistakes happen, and he's there. And I've said again for a while, Stevie, that Nygren's best position is probably playing as a through number 10 / shadow striker who would play off a guy like Casper Ho. So maybe we could see more of Nygren. How did you see him, Stevie, Nygren overall in the game? I don't imagine there's much more to say about that goal other than well done for a bit of pressure.
Yeah, again, right place, right time, and some say it was lucky. No, it wasn't. He was there to pressurise and press the Kilmarnock defence. It made the Killie keeper hesitate, and he was there to capitalise on the mistake and score the goal. It was classic. If you don't buy the ticket, you're not going to win the lottery kind of outcome of a goal, and it's a sign of intelligence from Nygren as well. Look, we all know what Nygren is. We've talked about him to death, especially when I've been on the show. He's got many flaws as a footballer. He's not got a lot of pace. He's not great with the ball at his feet. I've still can't recall a time he's put a good solid cross into the box when he's been playing at the wings. But by Christ, the guy seems to know how to score goals, and he scores all types of goals as well. I mean, without his goals, we wouldn't have won the league last season. So from that aspect alone, we've got a lot to be grateful of and on. And I think Sunday he had a very, very good game. I can see that him and Ho have already built up a partnership, and they've clearly got a rapport going there as well. I noticed it with Duran as well. I think they seem to link up quite nicely with each other as well. I think I'd imagine with Duran's style of play, Nygren knows, brilliant, I've got a guy here who knows how to cut in, and I can make my runs into the box and get in the end of his balls when he puts them in as well. So I think the reason why we're seeing Nygren do so well on Sunday is because I think he now knows he's got players around him whose strengths kind of complement his strengths as well. And I'm in full agreement with you. I think clearly number 10 is his best position. He doesn't have the refined qualities needed to be an 8 or a 6 or anything like that. He's just not good enough. He's not a good enough passer or composed enough to the ball to play in those roles. He's definitely a 10. He's going to be that guy there who whenever Ho is got the ball held up, he's the first one that's going to make that 10-yard run into the box so that Ho can get it to him.
Absolutely. A negative, Gavin. Not something I want to dwell on too hard. The Kilmarnock goal. I guess for most people, the biggest negative on this goal is that Colby Donovan just completely left his man unmarked. Not even by a couple of yards. He completely left him, and out there in the wilderness to receive the ball. By the time Donovan realizes what's going on, he's late to the party, and they get their goal. You know my view on youngsters, Gavin. You know I'm all for giving them a try. I think they'll learn from mistakes. What did you see in that goal? Was it too big a mistake for Donovan to make? Do you think, a bit like me, that he might learn from that, not to leave his man?
Yeah. Whenever the goal was conceded, I kind of criticised Donovan, but it's really, really easy to criticise Donovan. I wouldn't get too upset about it. But I guess on a kind of wider note, I'm not a big fan of Donovan. I don't think many people are, and who knows what's going to happen with Donovan? I would like him to leave the club, whether it be on loan. I don't mind if he leaves permanently, but I don't think he's going to go. I think he's going to be a Celtic player for the next couple of seasons, just because of the advantages of retaining homegrown players. So I think we're going to have to put up with him. But unfortunately, I don't think he offers much in the park.
I think when it comes to Donovan, if you had Alistair Johnson and Julian Araujo as your two options on the right back, you sell Ralston and you loan out Colby Donovan for a year to a Kilmarnock and Aberdeen at St Johnstone level, and see if the 30-35 games a season of real solid minutes can help just bring him on, because he's a type of player that, much like many other youngsters that are coming through, he's stalling in his development. He's not getting the right kind of minutes. He's not getting the right kind of performances, and probably not getting the right kind of help, be it from the players next to him, the coaching staff. And that's not a slight on anybody. It's more the fact that there's not enough coaching staff to be able to do proper by them. He probably would benefit a lot by taking a loan spell somewhere appropriate, not your second division teams. Again, briefly, Stevie, on the goal, on Donovan, anything you want to add on that?
No, I mean, I'm not going to be as harsh as Gavin and say I'd like Donovan to leave, but if what we all fear happens and Alistair Johnson departs for down south, do I want Colby Donovan as our first choice or even second choice right back? Oh no. I think he's a guy, I think, let's be honest, is benefiting from being a club prospect, playing in a position that the club is, or that the first team is lighting the ground on. I want him to be a success because I'm begging Celtic to make an academy talent into a competent first team player. I'm not asking for another Kieran Tierney here. I just want at least one academy prospect to become a guy who, when he's in the starting lineup, we can say, all right, he's starting, that's good. Because we need one, really. And the first couple of times I saw Colby Donovan, I thought, all right, we've got someone decent here, but yeah, there's clear flaws to his game. He's not quick enough. He, as you've alluded to, Tony, he loses his man very easily. He's not got great awareness of his surroundings. That's not a good sign for a defender, and it's stuff that he should have now refined. I think what you say is right. He's a St Johnstone or a St Mirren player. He's not a Celtic player.
So for me, I really want to see him do well. Like any youngster, I'm not going to slate him. I do think he needs that loan spell, but if he goes out on loan or gets sold, I very much think he will develop a little bit more, and he could end up being the equivalent in a different position, mind you, of your Calvin Mills and go on and have a fairly decent career. What I would just hope we don't end up doing is you end up loaning him out, selling him. He does a decent career, and in about 4 or 5 years' time, some Celtic fans are starting to ask for him to come back, and you forget, as Stevie says, there is a couple of things in his game. He really should have ironed a few things out. But I'll put that down to the fact that, albeit he got some good minutes last year, he's not getting coached properly for my liking. And he's now, in this season, I don't imagine he's going to get anywhere near as many minutes as he did last year, which for me is just going to stall his career again. Negatives down.
Sorry, just very quickly, what I was going to say is one bit I'll defend him on, right? It did happen when we were 4-0 up. It's very natural for him and his teammates to got a bit of complacent and switch off for a wee bit. But that is a minor defence at best. It's still, you would think that he's got to be thinking, right, if I help keep a clean sheet here, that bodes well for me, but didn't happen.
No. Goal number 5 though, Gavin. Luke McCown comes on as a sub. And it's a corner from the left side. If you're looking at it, I always get scared that I get the sides the wrong way around when you technically talk about them. But the ball comes in from the left side of the pitch from the corner. It bounces around a wee bit. I think, is it KT that has a kind of swing in it and doesn't really make a connection? And it falls to Luke McCown, who I don't think he can actually see the net. I don't think he can see the goal. And it's actually quite an impressive take for me, how he gets a good contact on it to then direct it into the back of the net. Luke McCown is one of these guys, Gavin, that you've just said, he'll tick a box as far as the quotas are concerned for European markets. Are you happy with McCown as an impact sub? Do you think he still merits and deserves his place?
Well, for the goal itself, I thought it was quite a smart one. It was kind of instinctive, where he kind of hooked it back the opposite way to where the defender and the keepers were edging towards. And so, yeah, I'm happy that he scored the goal, and it was nice to get the 5th in the end. Luke McCowan had a somewhat impressive first season for Celtic. He got a number of goals, and he looked a lively player who would come into the midfield and try to make things happen. I felt last season it was underwhelming, and it annoyed me because I want to see him do well. I was really happy with how he did in the first season. My fear is whenever he gets the ball with his back to the opposition, he's so easy to lose possession just from sheer physical pressure, and it looks really, really soft. But wherever he does pick up the ball in the park, it's normally in dangerous situations for us to lose the ball. What you want to do is get your first touch, get the ball away from you, make a pass and run on, progress up the pitch. There was a few instances last season where he was not doing himself any favours. I don't know if he's bulked up a wee bit. When I saw him on Sunday there, he looked as if he had put on a little bit of muscle. That's probably the best way to respond. Work hard in the gym over the summer, and you've got a point to prove. I am sure that he got the proper feedback that he needed from the coaching staff and from Martin O'Neill, because Martin O'Neill he can really cut you down when he needs to.
Yeah.
Not that I think Luke McCowan was ever letting his ego get in the way at all. I think he's quite a humble individual anyway. But I'm sure he knew what he had to go away and work upon. And I hope that we see an improved Luke McCowan this season. He had a contract extension where he might not have deserved it. But then again, the cynical person would say that was to protect your investment by doing that. But look, he's a Celtic fan. We want him to do well. I think we all want him to do well. I know that there were some comments about putting him to Hibs or whatever. Hopefully, he can be a good player for Celtic. But at the moment, that's 2 games now in a row that he's come on as a sub over Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Yeah,
Man with a brilliant CV and a reputation, but Oxlade isn't really at the races physically from what I can see, although he might have done a power of work in the pre-season. I've not actually seen him kick a ball yet for Celtic in anger so far, so who knows. But Luke McCowan is getting an edge over him, but I really want him to kick on. He has to, otherwise he'll have to go.
I think this would be his last season if he doesn't start to. I don't see him as a player that's going to be a starting 11. If if you've got the peak Celtic that you want and we all dream to have, Luke McCowan's not in the starting 11. But Luke McCowan, for me, can and should be a guy who kicks and pushes on to be that guy who is nipping at the heels of somebody to take the place, is coming on as an impact sub and making an impression and having a good squad presence and a good season for himself. I think he probably realises that as well. He's not going to be the Scott Brown or the Cal McGregor of Celtic at this stage. But yeah, compared to Oxlade-Chamberlain, that's mad when you think about how much. We're probably not paying him that much money in a wage, but how much we've kind of went after him there. Everybody all last season was talking about, get him a pre-season, get him, out of last season's kind of negative vibes, and he'll do great this season. Yet we took that long to actually re-sign him, that he's probably not had much of a pre-season. So I don't know, are we giving him an extended couple of weeks to get up to match sharpness again? Or is this a sign, as you said, Gavin, that Luke McCowan's ahead of him in that pecking order? And it almost then begs the question, what's the point in signing Oxlade-Chamberlain? Stevie, Oxlade-Chamberlain for you?
Yeah, it's weird because there's no way he's on a low salary with the background he's got and the name value and the experience that he has. I can only think they gave him a year just because at the time they hadn't yet targeted any midfielders that they realistically knew they were going to sign. That's my only way of thinking on it. Either that or they've thought, okay, ain't going to get much minutes, but it's good having the presence of a guy like that in the squad, a guy that's able to share the experience that he's got, having a guy that's played in World Cups and played in Champions League finals at some of the biggest clubs in the world, and knows at the business end of a season how much pressure there is and how much hard work needs to be done. Do you just have that factored in there? My guess is as good as anybody's. I just don't know. And could he just be a guy that we just see in 10-minute cameos between now and the end of the season, possibly?
We try and steer the conversation now towards transfers. Obviously, we'll get onto the one that everybody wants to talk about in a minute. With that midfield, it's always been everybody's bugbear that it's probably the bit that needs overhauled the most. But we've just re-signed Oxlade-Chamberlain. You've just given McCowan an extension. That's your two bench players, your two backups sorted. We've just let Paulo Bernardo go out on loan. We're likely to see Engels go. We're possible and likely to see Hatate go. And the run into last season and the start of this season, it looks like Martin O'Neill's and even Sean Maloney, they've been bombing him out to a degree, it looks like. So if you take into consideration that we're probably going to be, Nygren, Callum McGregor and McCowan and Oxlade-Chamberlain as your full midfields, we really need to get a crack on bringing in some quality. We're 2 or 3 real big quality players needed in that midfield, if you ask me. Gavin, I'm going to bring you in for the first chat on Egyptian winger that's about to sign, and I'm fairly confident at this time that this deal is going to happen this week.
You sure?
I'm almost sure. I mean, we all thought Mika Bauer was signed 3 weeks ago, and I think Hassan was practically signed the same day that Mika Bauer wasn't signed as well. But I was watching his videos earlier on again today, Gavin, and for me, I'm really excited to see him coming in. I started to compare some of these stats to the obvious candidate that you're going to compare right wing Egyptian guy. You've got to compare him to Mo Salah, of course. Stats wise, this guy's getting a lot of praise for his dribbles work and his ability to take players on and beat a man. But some of these stats are getting highlighted as the end product, the assist and the goal stats aren't quite there yet.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to bring this up to you, and I'm going to throw something at you first for you to mull on. When I looked at the comparable player being Mo Salah, and I'm not saying he's going to turn out to be our Mo Salah, but stats-wise, Salah was at Chelsea 12 years ago, played 3 seasons, and I think stats-wise, if I'm right in saying off the top of my head, it was like 4 goals and 3 assists over 3 years at Chelsea. It wasn't a lot at all. He was 20, 22, 23 kind of age range when Salah, 22, 23, 24 was the kind of age range when Salah was at Chelsea. That's the same age that Hassan has been at Real Oviedo, who have been in La Liga last season and got relegated. So let's keep in mind stats for attacking players when teams are in that kind of yo-yo position. They're not usually that healthy either. He doesn't look a million miles away from, I don't want to say how poor Mo Salah was perceived when Chelsea said no good enough. And look how Salah turned out. So Hassan, is he the player that you expect him to come in as? Is he going to blow us away, do you think?
I'd like to kind of view Hassan a bit like Kuhn, where Kuhn had under-delivered in some of the clubs that he'd been at. And the kind of key comparison between Kuhn and Hassan is whenever, with their speed, their raw pace, whenever they stand up a fullback, they're able to just put the ball past them, and in an instant, they're already beyond and picking up the ball and advancing into a deeper area. So, apart from that, the statistics, you can look at his history and say that goals and assists aren't quite there, but he does look like a good ball carrier. I'm just hoping. And by the way, if he was consistent, like people, I looked on X today, and there was like a La Liga expert, and he was saying, look, you're basing, bye-bye, McGinty. You're basing Hassan's hype upon you're basing. Hi, welcome back. So I looked at the comments from a La Liga expert on X, and he was saying that you're basing the hype on Hassan on his performance against Argentina, and he said don't expect that. He's very, very hot and cold. But I guess from a winger, if they were consistent, if they were consistently good like that Argentina performance, then we would not be getting him. So you need to take that into account. However, I think that if we're able to tap into what he's able to bring to the table, then I think it'll benefit us. We've been trying to replaced Abada with Kuhn, and Kuhn is left, and we haven't replaced anyone like that. This guy looks like he's got raw pace, like Abada, like Kuhn, and I'm excited. His end product, we'll see what it's like. We'll see exactly how hot and cold he is, but I'm looking forward to it. I love wingers with pace, and this guy is chock full of that. So I'm really looking forward to it. However, see, whenever we talk about Hassan, I think we also need to talk about Duran. Now, Duran has been played out of position, and he came off in the hour mark, I think, roughly, and he looked a wee bit disappointed. Duran was playing centre forward in the pre-season friendlies, and he was getting goals. Now, who's came in, the man with the reputation, the man with the big money, and who's delivered? What happens to Duran? I know that somebody put in a formation earlier on, but I'd kind of disagreed because the only kind of proper midfielder out of all of them looked to be Callum McGregor. You need a balance. So if you're going to play 2 up front with Duran and who, think of what you're sacrificing. Now, the other thing is, it's a great problem to have with 2 good centre forwards. And that could potentially be what it's going to be like. I don't know what the fate of left wing holds for Celtic. I'm not really seeing any concrete enough rumours. But if Hassan comes in, I'd like to think Hassan is going to play in his favoured position as a right winger. Who's going to play centre forward? And who else plays on the left wing? I don't know if Duran is going to occupy that role. The other thing is, we generally don't know how good Duran is. We don't know. He looks to have something about him. But he needs games, he needs confidence. He probably needs to be playing in his favoured position. But think about it. If you're going to play 2 up front, think of the sacrifices. Think of what you're going to lose to the team shape if we have to readjust. I've got a hunch that we're going to remain as a 4-3-3.
I don't see us change the formation, not drastically enough in that way to go 2 up front. My assumption is we've seen Duran on the left side briefly. My assumption is that Duran's going to go left, Hassan's going to be right, and Casper Hole's going to go through the middle. And if we balance the midfield just enough, you play Negrin in the number 10, you play Cal McGregor as a number 8, and you bring in either a dominant number 6 properly or an equal but slightly stronger number 8 alongside Cal Mack, and you play the midfield, one stays back, one goes forward thing, and not what we do with Cal McGregor just now, which is literally playing as a 6 when he's not a 6. For me, I'm not sure Duran's going to be the best player. I get the feeling we're going to be frustrated with Duran in the same way that we could get frustrated with Maeda, that when he's on the left wing, he's going to put in the performance, he's going to put in the work, but the end product's probably going to drop quite considerably until you move him back into the midfield, back into the middle of the park, and then you'll see the goals starting to come on in again. It's a good problem to have, but I just got that feeling that maybe, as much as Martin O'Neill has said it himself, not to count on Jota, the fact that Jota's back with the players in Lennoxtown to some degree, I don't know if he's on the training pitch proper, or if he's just doing some running just now, but the fact that Jota looks like he's coming back. I'm still not counting him until the end of the calendar year, to be honest, but it looks like the hype might start to ramp up a little bit. The influence of him on the training pitch might start to kind of take shape again. Could we be looking at potentially going forward, especially into the second half of the season, of Hassan right, Jota left, with a backup to Jota being Duran, or Osmond, who can also play left, with one of those two being the backup to Casper Hole, with Hassan on the right, and Hassan's got Yang as his backup. So Hassan, Yang, Casper Hole, Duran, Jota, Osmond. Obviously, Osmond, I'm saying, can rotate with Duran. That's a front line with backup that's actually quite exciting, quite prospective, I think.
See, for Champions League, and I know that we want to get Stephen back in, so I apologise. Champions League is coming up soon. Okay, so say we get through and we're into the group stage. At the moment, our out-and-out left winger is Tenetke. He's the only out-and-out left winger.
That's scary. Then you have to remember, and see, we will bring you in literally next to this one after this point I make to Gavin. You have to remember, our club and our board, they just see entry as the success mark. What happens in the Champions League doesn't matter to them. They've literally said it is just getting entry to it. So will the club be looking at that same dilemma that me and you would look at, or would they be maybe thinking the same as what I'm kind of alluding to, that, well, fuck it, we'll just wait until Jota comes back, we're not going to replace him. You've got potentially those 6 between the front 3. Leave it at that. Stevie, with the talk of Hassan, I think he's meant to be flying into the UK tonight, looking to do his medical, I'm guessing, tomorrow morning. And I think we'd all expect him to be signed on Thursday by the deadline, surely. The deadline being for the registration of your first 25 for the Champions League qualifier. How do you see Hassan, Stevie?
Well, I'm just delighted because we're going to sign a player who, whenever he scores over the tannoys, they're going to play walk like an Egyptian. So I'm just excited.
Is that slightly racist?
It's borderline, isn't it?
Let us have something, Gavin. Yeah, I know.
I know. The pyramids hadn't even been built yet, but when we first got linked with them, so it's just happy to hear that finally he's on his way. When it comes to the winger debates, I think we need to get a left winger at least on loan. Usually I hate loan signings, but I think I say at least on loan because I still don't. Yeah, even though he's back in the training pitch, I think it'll be November, December the earliest before we're seeing Jota kick a ball again.
Yeah.
Tenetke, I've said it a million times, he's a 50-minute player. He cannot play in 90 minutes, and he he's just not reliable as a starting left winger. That leaves us with Duran, who I think we know is going to be more effective in the centre. And I would rather we have two centre forwards who are surely going to get into double-digit figures throughout the season, rather than a centre forward forced to play as a winger because needs must, because that could be detrimental to our goal tally for the season. So I would like to see a winger brought in, at least on loan, just to kind of cover that period, and then you've got Hassan there on the right with Yang as backup, and I think that completes our forward line for the season. When it comes to Hassan himself, again, I ain't going to claim to know who he was before Celtic were linked with him. I think just about like majority of Celtic players, the only thing I know about him was that performance he had against Argentina in the World Cup, where he looked very, very good. But I doubt that he's going to be like that in every single game. Plus, he's been playing for a side who just get relegated. So that immediately says there's going to be positives and minuses to him, just like there is to every footballer that's ever worn the hoops or any other top for that matter.
Can I point out something you might not know about Hassan? It looks like he's never even lived in Egypt. So like a lot of French-born players with North African heritage, they don't play for France, then they opt for the country of their parents.
Tanecki's the same, because Tanecki was actually born in France. He's actually French, isn't he?
Well, Hassan certainly is French. He was born in France. Well, it depends what you like to say. Like, is Aidan McGee the Irish or is he Scottish? But Hassan, born in France, represented Le Bleu at the under-17 and under-18 before switching allegiance and making his senior international debut for Egypt earlier this year. So, just like you know.
At least he managed to do that at a slightly more appropriate age compared to half the Scottish team who get a cap at the age of 28, 29 because they realise they're never getting in the England squad, and we just take pity on them seemingly, or they take pity on us rather. Somebody posted there, I think it was Jay, bringing up the fuck it, let's raid Bodo again for Hawk for the left wing position. I actually watched a social media thing. I was Instagram or something. I was swiping away earlier on. I've seen the guy before. I can't remember the account name. I thought, right, I'll give it a listen because he's talking about how could you fix Celtic's starting 11 or Celtic score sort of thing. And most of what he said was a load of fucking shit because he got a lot of things wrong that were quite basic. He called Casper Ho our first signing. He said that Casper Ho scored a hat-trick on his debut and this kind of stuff that was like just weirdly wrong, that shouldn't be wrong when you're making content, I think. But he did bring up actually Bodo Glimt's right back as an option. I think he said he's 22. Reckoned it probably costs a good few million as well, mind you. But there's options still out there for these positions. And as Stevie was saying as well, kind of along the same lines as me, if you just do a little bit more work, and I can go along with Stevie's thinking on the left wing, maybe look at a loan. Maybe a
Mashvinisi.
What? Mashvinisi, yeah, possible.
He plays on the left, doesn't he?
I thought he was right side, was he not?
Ah, shit.
Don't imagine
I thought he was left. Maybe I'll need to recheck.
But you wouldn't go miss with a loan signing of a Timothy Weir kind of stature, caliber of player. Not going to, command the starting berth, but somebody with quite a lot of potential that would come in and help out and help see you through until Jota returns and or further beyond, have that option to buy potentially.
A 19 or a 20-year-old who's on the fringes or I don't know.
Aye.
Like Aston Villa, something like that.
Fair play, Jay Stevie's right. Masuishi is on the left wing. Shows you how much I watch Motherwell when I'm not watching Celtic.
Who's your favourite ever left winger ever in football?
Ever in football?
Ever.
Fuck.
Well, Messi.
More of a right winger, was he not? Before he went.
But he's left-footed.
So's Naka. Fuck it, put him in.
Was Nedved left wing?
Don't know. He was more of like an attacking midfielder. He could probably
That's a tough one to say.
I definitely remember he played in the left when I saw him against Scotland for the Czech Republic back in 2002.
Bobby Petter.
Alan Thompson, fuck it.
Are we just talking Celtic then?
No, I just meant in general. In general.
I don't know. It's tough.
One of the first wingers that I really loved playing on the left was Mark Overmars. Loved watching him.
Ah, yes.
I feel like I never appreciated Overmars in that era. Kind of just a wee bit too young for it, I think, to fully appreciate it in a football context, like a football enthusiast context. I don't know. I can't answer that off the top of my head. Without probably embarrass myself too much.
Never mind.
Celtic wise, you have to look at guys like McGeady and Nakamura for our lifetime. I know Nakamura played right for us, but he's still a left wing in my head.
John Collins.
Yeah, possible. Yeah. Most talented.
Number 10.
I'd say McGeady though.
I think back in the 4-4-2 days, he would play on the left of a 4, but yeah, he would kind of gravitate. I don't think he was an out-and-out winger who would always beat people on the outside. I think he had a lot of talent, John Collins, though. Anyway.
So, guys, that's pretty much everything that I had covered for the night for us to try and be positive on and go forward with. I was going to bring up the kind of what position do you want next to be filled after Hassan, but I'm not going to kill the podcast with any sort of negative because we've caused quite a bit of that in the last few weeks, have we not?
Can I say something?
Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah, unless you were building up to a new point, which I apologise for.
No.
Right. So 2 things. One thing that's been really, really noticeable for me in this January transfer window, in this summer transfer window, is the absence of project signings. When was the last time you ever saw this?
And we're not even getting linked with them. Like even some of the other guys, if you look at, was it Matteo Cancelleri? Was the other winger we're getting linked with? Your boy Ferris Gedimides. They're all in the early 20s. They're no 18, 19, 20-year-old projects. They've all got 2 or 3 years in them, which I liked about Engels when we first signed him as well. You were spending that 11 million, 10 million on him, but you were getting somebody who he already had that fabled 50 games or more under his belt. You wanted projects coming in and seeing if they'll hit the ground running. You were getting somebody ready to go, albeit maybe not polished. Yeah, it's refreshing. It's slow, but it's refreshing.
It's all down to Martin O'Neill for that.
I think so.
He said enough is enough. Get rid of everybody who's not good enough to improve the squad, the first team. I only want people who can improve the squad. I don't want anybody else who doesn't tick that box. For me, it's all Martin O'Neill for the absence of project signings. And that the board I'm sure that they've not liked that, but they've had to toe the line for that.
I mean, if Martin O'Neill's been that way, which you would think he would be because he's kicked up a stint before at Celtic first time around back in the day, and he's kicked up a stint was at Aston Villa as well. He's got that presence and that authority to do that. He might not have the contract and the longevity in his career to demand too much, but I think the board and the club have backed themselves into is Mudryk allowed to play yet? Is that ban up?
I think I heard it get lifted. They shortened it by a year or something.
I'm not going to lie, that is a possibility. Then, if that's the case, because he will be, you'd have to assume he's been training and practicing for the last couple of years, obviously, to keep himself fit. But that's something that we should be all over because we're never going to afford him or sign him, but somebody's going to have to take a punt on them because, somebody needs to get.
And he maybe see us as the club, the right kind of club to get him a season's worth of football back under his belt.
Yeah, we do him a favour. He does us a favour. Get him in for 1 year on a basic contract of some kind, bonus galore for performances and minutes played. And then you just see where the chips lie like next season when Jota's back and all the rest of that. Possibly is a good shout actually for something to look at. Back to the Martin O'Neill thing though, Gavin. Yeah, I think the clubs maybe put themselves in a position where they have to kind of do what Martin O'Neill says. And if I'm right in saying, maybe I'm making some of this up in my head, was there no point that Martin O'Neill made a couple of weeks ago that was akin to that in regards to signing proper players, that something to do with how long he plans to be here for, obviously the year that he wants to leave the club and the squad ready for the next guy, whoever it might be, with actual quality and actually talent there. So this would be akin in that line, surely. Less projects, less bloated shite, and just a core group. Even if it is just a core 15, 18 of quality, plus, that dozen, 10 or so filler at the end of it that might be a bit of potential, but give the next manager something to fucking start off of, because a new manager coming in would have been like, I know Ange did wonders a few years ago, but coming into this squad for most managers would be a fucking nightmare to try and deal with.
I've not heard those comments from Martin O'Neill talking about his successor. I've not heard that.
I might have made that up in my own head, to be honest. I'm not going to lie.
I cannot agree with the sentiment, although I don't think that Martin O'Neill was thinking about leaving Celtic. I think he's thinking about the short term, and it makes sense that he wants ready-made players with experience, with character for the now. So that benefits Celtic, benefits us, because we're seeing quality come in. It's very much quality over quantity at this moment in time. So it's refreshing. No Kwons, no Telios, no Inamuras. None of that.
No Scandies.
And I tell you what pissed me off the most about that, Gavin, was none of them were actually for small amounts of money. They're all at $1.5 million, 2 million. And I'm going, those 3 or 4 signings combined were about 7 or 8 million. We could have went out and got to maybe not world class, but close to world class, say centre half or midfielder, a player that we desperately needed at the time to add that extra bit of quality to be better suited in Europe or whatnot, or for a title charge. It drove me around the fucking bend whenever we're making those daftly signings.
Mm-hmm.
Albeit there's going to be a little bit of hindsight, a little bit of foresight, a little bit of hypothetical what I'm about to say here, obviously. But look at Taneki and Balakwisha, the money we spent on them combined. If you just went out and paid the money on what we expect Hassan to be now, the equivalent of that last year, you wouldn't have fucking Taneki and Balakwisha stinking the place out on a decent wage and a decent fees. Just go buy the 9-10 million pound player. Stop buying the 2 or 3 half-assed projects. Buy the one guy at 9 million. And then later on, once you've got the core squad and the good squad, then go get the 1 or 2 million pound fucking projects that you want to see develop as the second or third choice right winger or whatever it is that it has to be. But get the fucking, you have to have the main squad of a good quality before you start tossing in projects. You can't. No club wanting to be taken seriously in the Champions League fields a starting 11 made up of 5 or 6 projects. It has to be about 7 or 8 star qualities players, another 2 or 3 good quality players, and then you can start thinking, your projects can make an appearance and see if they can step up to the mark. You can't fucking rely on these guys going into these kind of games when it needs to be a bit better than that.
Aye.
Anyway, hour and 14-minute max. If anybody's got anything else, now's the moment to speak.
Very quickly, it's do we think Johnson being taken off at half time was to pad him in case the Everton move is definitely on?
I heard Maloney. I never read the comments. I just saw a headline. Maloney explains injury concern with AJ. I never clicked on it, but that was a headline I saw.
It would still fall into the realms of injury concern with AJ. If you wanted to sell him, you would still be concerned about an injury, of course. So it could be true in some backward way. I think the age that's not going to go away until the window closes. Let's be honest. He's very likely to move. I think this window. Engels being the main one to go, and then I think it's going to be AJ potentially. The other 2 that might leave, one being Hatay, I don't think anybody's going to begrudge, miss, or be too disheartened with. No matter how much I would have loved it to have worked out better for him. And Ray, I think it's very minute chance Nigren might get an offer. but something tells me Nygren's probably happier at Celtic than he looks like he is, and probably more so the last week or two now that he's got the likes of Duran and definitely Casper Hohen to kind of play with and play off of. That sounded so much worse in my head when it came out. Anyway, guys, as I say, an hour 15, it's been a good night. It's been full of positivity, one or two negative points that we didn't dwell on too much. Nobody's getting carried away, but that was on Sunday a good 5-1 victory, capped off by a great win by Hibs. We sit top of the table, 6 points out of 6. I think it's a 5-goal difference. So long may this continue and progression keeps going in our favour. Guys, thanks for being here again. Hail, hail, and all the best.
Hail, hail.
Right.